it's funny. I always say, like, I'm so grateful to be older every year because there's just more wisdom. It's like wisdom with, it just keeps adding up. It's like a great wine, it gets better and better each year. And I do think that.
Stay connected to gratitude. Hit the follow button right now and join thousands of listeners tuning in each week. We're the Gratitude Seekers. Come join us. Hi, Gratitude Seeker. Welcome to a new episode of the Gratitude Podcast. Today, with us, we have a very interesting person. Her dreams were shattered when she was told she was too big to be a dancer. She had a serious food addiction due to stress of growing up with a father who suffered from PTSD and struggled financially. Being in a marriage that didn't feel right and feeling responsible for keeping her father alive, she became a hopeless empath, which led to her becoming sick, including thyroid failure. Her turning point was when she considered driving her car into a tree and end her life. She made the decision to reinvent her life, and Julie became a TV personality, a serial author, a TEDx speaker, a life design coach, and a global ambassador for major design brands including Lululemon, Canyon Ranch, and Mind Body Green. She also directed the documentary Hungry for More, and her meditations have been downloaded over 100,000 times. Today with us, we have Julie Riesler. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much. I'm so, so, so excited and grateful to be here with you.
Awesome. Thank you for being here and for being so present. I really appreciate that about my guests. So let us know a little bit more about you that I failed to get into.
Well, I will. We just in knowing we have only a certain amount of time, I'll do the Cliff Notes version because there's, of course, it's funny hearing like life boiled down in a few sentences. Although you did an amazing job, and that definitely hits the head on the nail. I think for me, what I think is really important, and this is sort of the area that I'm obsessed with, and then I love helping what I call big-hearted, high-achieving men and women with, is really learning to both love who you are, love yourself fully, and learning to listen and trust that deep inner wisdom, inner voice. And I did a lot of life kind of out of the lane of listening to myself, not having a lot of self love, care, respect for who I was. And I always joke that one of the books I wrote was called Get a PhD in You. And I said I had a PhD in people pleasing. I was really, really good at just making sure I could be whoever you wanted me to be. And in doing that, it was well intended. I really lost sense of who I am. And the excavation process has been a really intensive, I would say, last close to 20 years. And I look at that day of wanting to drive into a tree. It's a true story. I was on the way to a support group meeting to handle and deal with and look at my binging and overeating and food addiction. And thank God I heard an inner voice that said, go to the meeting. Just go to the meeting and your life will change. I literally heard, if you go to the meeting, your life will change. And what I can say is that since then, that peeling back process, that learning of how to tune in, to listen, to move forward in life with that kind of inner divine presence and knowing, has been one of the biggest gifts. I thank that darkness for waking me up. And today, what I'm really obsessed with is helping anyone that feels like, their light is turned off, anyone that feels like they're just, not fully there, and like something's missing. I know what that's like. And I also know, that with things like gratitude, shifting the way you see things and really tuning in, getting quiet and listening, honoring yourself, learning to love who you are and who you're not. Those are those are treasures. And they've saved my life. They've changed my life. They transformed my life and have given me life. And that is so much of the passion that fuels who I am today and all that I'm here trying to do to help others really get who they are, get that we are each sacred beings. It's the way I look at it. So I'm grateful today. Gratitude is a huge part of my existence. I tune into it every single morning in a structured way, and I also try to do it as often as possible in a non-structured way. I talk out loud to myself. So anyhow, hopefully that fills in the gap a little bit to give a little more kind of sense of who I am. I'm grateful to be here, and I hope anything I say, my intention is always that, at least whoever's listening gets at least something impactful that can help transform your life today. So that's where I'm coming from.
Beautiful. I think you've described it very well and very interesting. Like especially this part about how you came to this idea of becoming the US you, because
Yeah.
we sometimes forget to be ourselves when we are surrounded by people, and everyone might want us to be in a certain way. And how do we do that? How do we get back to who we are?
Exactly. It's interesting. I really feel like what I'm learning in my, it's funny. I always say, like, I'm so grateful to be older every year because there's just more wisdom. It's like wisdom with, it just keeps adding up. It's like a great wine, it gets better and better each year. And I do think that, um, part of what is needed and called for in tuning into your best self, your authentic self, your truest you, your youest you, like you said, what I call it, is kind of the opposite of what our society and culture and world is telling us, which is to do more, right? Like we're always being shown people that are keeping track of goals and being productive and crushing it and doing things. And I'm not against that. I'm a fire sign. I am all about getting things done. However, and I say that kind of laughing, like jokingly, although I do pretty much, I love everything I read about my sign. I'm like, wow, that is me to a T. So, but I really think what's needed and what's being called for on a massive level, not just for me, not just for anyone listening, but like at a global level is really more of is more in the realm of being still, of that receptivity, of reflection, going within, getting quiet. It's actually the opposite. It can feel very frenzied to me. Like if anyone listening is into social media or into, TV and media, like there's a lot being thrown at us. And I really think becoming your USU, a big piece of that is learning to get still and quiet. You've got to be able to hear and listen and feel or sense whatever your way of intuiting is, being still and meditating. I have a process. I have 2 books called Get a PhD in You. And I just broke it down. My joke was after I went through all of this meetings and recovery and support group and working with a therapist and a coach and a sponsor. I mean, like 50 grand of therapy and all of that. There was a day that I went to a support group and I came away with a friend and I said, my gosh, I feel like I just got a PhD in myself. Like I literally for once feel like I've got a sense. And so I have a really simple method. It's just PhD. I just liked the play on words. I think that we get PhD in topics and study everything but ourselves. So for me, it's really looking at the past. What has worked well? What are your strengths? What are your gifts? Let's focus on where you've thrived, not where you suck, and where you're doing well. And then bring that forward to the present. What is working well right now? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? Get really close to that present moment. So you're kind of carrying and harnessing the gifts of the past. You're bringing them to the present and then designing your dreams, your desires for the future with BD. And so really going within, and I have a guided meditation to do that. And even if you don't have the meditation, it could just be listening to music or being still and really letting yourself imagine what do you want your life to feel like and be like 6 months, a year, 5 years from now. Let yourself really take the best of the best from the past, from who you are now, your strengths, your unique brilliance, and then create it going forward. That's not the only thing, but I think that's an important process because we often are in the past looking at what didn't work and how we screwed up. I know this very well myself, or we're looking into the future with fear and doubt. And so I can just tell you what's worked for me is kind of putting that on its head and looking at life and who you are, A, as a sacred and divine being, or whatever words work for you, as someone who's here with a purpose, with a passion. And then B, it's really, how do I tap into my gifts, what I came here to share? We all have them. Everybody, everyone listening, we all have them. We all have unique ones that, Georgian, you have certain gifts that only you have, and I have certain gifts that only I have. And I believe really the goal is to listen and tune into them and then to live by those and share those. That I think would create a very, very different world, a very different place to live in if we were tuning into that way of being. And notice I said being and not doing, even though I often get caught up in the doing, the human doing versus the human being. So yeah, that's a little bit on where you can start.
Americans spend an average of 90% of their time indoors and take about 20,000 breaths a day. According to the EPA, indoor air is 2 to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air, and in some cases up to 100 times more polluted. Data shows that air pollution is responsible for nearly 7 million premature deaths globally. We are fortunate enough to live outside the city with easy access to it and a green meadow view outside the window. The not so fortunate part is that when we open the windows, we can hear all the constant traffic close to us and the air quality isn't the best. Aside from that, our neighbors have a passion for using all kinds of fossil fuel motors to build or cut grass. I love doing breath work. I'm sure you do too. And it's in those moments when you breathe deeply that you become aware of the quality of the air you breathe and how important it actually is. So what's the solution? Introducing an air purifier that captured the attention of established media outlets such as CNN, Money, ABC, and more. Air Doctor. Air Doctor filters out 99.99% of dangerous contaminants and allergens such as pollen, pet dander, dust mite, mold, and even bacteria and viruses, so your lungs don't have to. All Air Doctor purifiers also feature whisper jet fans, 30% quieter than ordinary air purifiers. Air Doctor also comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't love it, just send it back for a refund minus shipping. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code GRATITUDE, and depending on the model, you'll receive up to 39% off or up to $300 off. Exclusive to podcast customers, you will also receive a free 3-year warranty on any unit, which is an additional $84 value. Lock the special offer by going to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code GRATITUDE. Yeah, I sure share many of the things, of the perspectives that you just shared. For instance, the fact that it's very important to look in the past and see those things, like be grateful for the things at which you were great, and appreciate yourself for your accomplishments and for the qualities that you had in certain moments, because that actually helps us see them. Otherwise, we just think about experiences from the past and we think, how stupid was I to do that, or I don't know, all kinds of things of this nature that aren't really helping us in getting to a better place, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and I think you brought up something really, really important, which is, I see I see a gratitude as kind of like it's almost like the magic wand or the thing, the elixir. Like when you use the ingredient of gratitude, let's say, it's like you're making a soup, you're making a dish. Like if you forget salt, usually it's really missing something, or that primary ingredient. To me, it's really that one of the most important ingredients that activates whatever you're thinking about being grateful for it activates it in a way that it kind of acts in this way that it makes it, I feel like even more, there's even more appreciation and gratitude. And then what I've seen is, like attracts like, even more comes from that. I also think, and I don't know, if you'd noticed, I'd said it earlier, but even to just be grateful, sometimes you need a little perspective. Sometimes, I know for me, I just had this recently. I do a lot of reflection and journaling, and I was looking at a thought that I had about myself. It was around worthiness, and I realized, oh my gosh, this thought, like this feeling I've had, it probably started somewhere in childhood relating to my dad. And, he struggled with a lot of financial issues and an undiagnosed attention deficit disorder and PTSD from being in Vietnam in the military. I mean, just a lot of, he is a wonderful dad. And there was a lot of like under that sadness. And I picked up a lot of it and I took it on as my own. And it took a while, but I had this feeling of gratitude because I'd seen it and I could thank that experience for helping to give me that fuel for who I am today. And so, I think using gratitude when you can step back and observe and say, okay, you know what? I really wish that had not happened with my dad, or, whatever the circumstances. But being able to add gratitude for what the lesson is, that can change the entire experience and your entire way of interpreting it. So, I mean, for me, gratitude, and I know you're all about this, it's this elixir, and I think when you use it, you don't have to use it sparingly. Like, use it as much as you want. It never goes bad. It never runs out. I mean, it just keeps, to me, it's when in doubt, go to gratitude.
Wonderful, wonderful. I totally share that belief, and I think it's a very interesting and important point you got to. Basically, gratitude empowers us in those situations in which we might feel like a victim. We might feel that life happened to us, and there's nothing for us to do about it, and we were just born this way, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a quick memory came up. Is it okay to? I mean, I can share really, really quickly.
Sure.
It has to, I remember for those gone through college. Not everyone does. I ended up going to college, and halfway through, I loved where I went to schools in upstate New York. Just beautiful, just campus community. I loved my courses. I mean, I'm like a one of those nerds. I love to learn. I love school. I could be in school. If I could be in school the rest of my life, I see life as a school. I love learning.
Yeah.
So I was like in love with everything to do with my experience at this university. And, my mom called me and basically said, this is, I think, my beginning of my junior year. And she's like, look, Julie, unfortunately, dad's out of a job again. His business folded. I mean, this was like, I heard this many times. We're not going to be able to send you back. Like, I didn't have enough financial aid at that point. I was working, I think, 3 jobs. I'm not kidding. I had 3 jobs on top
Oh
of
my God.
school, and that didn't cover it. And she's like, we can't afford it. And it was really upsetting. Like, even just thinking about it makes me want to cry. I was like, okay, that is not an option. And I dug within, and, we were very lucky. I just said, okay, what are the options? Who in our life might be able to help, or like, and where can I be grateful for this experience? And, I just had this memory, or all of a sudden I said to my mom, I had this amazing relative, a great aunt who was extremely generous, who, her husband had a very successful business, and she gave a lot to charity and did a lot to help humanity. And I just thought, this is uncomfortable, but I could ask her, as a loan. And let me just tell you, it was an enormous amount of money. I'd never done anything like that. I was 19 years old, and I'll tell you what, I called her out of the blue. I had not seen her in 10 years. And it's like literally one of the most uncomfortable moments in my life. But I called her and I just said, listen, I want to share with you, this is what's going on. I'm in love with school. Like, if there's any way you can loan me the money, it would just, I can't even tell you the difference it would make. And she ended up loaning me the money, and I paid her back. I'm not kidding. During school, after school, I think it was like $100 a month. That's what I could do. And I started to up it. And then she 4 years after I graduated, she said, Julie, I don't want you to pay me back anymore. It's a gift. And here's the other thing. I was so grateful to her anyhow. And I was planning to pay it. I didn't know how, but it brought me really close to her and an entire part of my family I really didn't know, all of my second cousins. So because of this experience, it was so uncomfortable, embarrassing, humiliating. I felt like sick to my stomach, but it was such a gift. And it brought family into my life that I'm now close with. And I learned, and had gratitude for someone who's so generous. So such gifts came out of that, that did not feel like that at the moment. Let me tell you, very
Yeah.
uncomfortable. So anyhow, just an experience that I think highlights that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that because I can totally relate. It's so interesting how we have these experiences in which we are in a situation where we really really need help and
Yeah.
we are vulnerable, and somehow we get the courage to ask someone for help. And it's not very easy because usually these kinds of situations are like have to do with that part which is hard for us to ask for help in, like if it's about money or about help with moving things or physical things. And it's so interesting how grateful we get to feel once we do that, and once
Yeah.
we get that help and we get that problem solved, even though in that moment it really isn't something that we can really believe in, like with all of our hearts. It's something like that we are a bit afraid of, a bit like you said, a bit sick to our stomach, and it's very on the edge. And the beautiful part is that the gratitude that usually comes from that is like, wow. Americans spend an average of 90% of their time indoors and take about 20,000 breaths a day. According to the EPA, indoor air is 2 to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air, and in some cases up to 100 times more polluted. Data shows that air pollution is responsible for nearly 7 million premature deaths globally. We are fortunate enough to live outside the city with easy access to it and a green meadow view outside the window. The not so fortunate part is that when we open the windows, we can hear all the constant traffic close to us, and the air quality isn't the best. Aside from that, our neighbors have a passion for using all kinds of fossil fuel motors to build or cut grass. I love doing breath work. I'm sure you do too. And it's in those moments when you breathe deeply that you become aware of the quality of the air you breathe and how important it actually is. So what's the solution? Introducing an air purifier that captured the attention of established media outlets such as CNN, Money, ABC, and more. Air Doctor. Air Doctor filters out 99.99% of dangerous contaminants and allergens such as pollen, pet dander, dust mite, mold, and even bacteria and viruses, so your lungs don't have to. All Air Doctor purifiers also feature whisper jet fans, 30% quieter than ordinary air purifiers. Air Doctor also comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't love it, just send it back for a refund minus shipping. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code GRATITUDE, and depending on the model, you'll receive up to 39% off or up to $300 off. Exclusive to podcast customers, you will also receive a free 3-year warranty on any unit, which is an additional $84 value. Lock the special offer by going to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code GRATITUDE.
Yeah, exactly. You said it beautifully. Yeah, it was profound. It also gave me this sense of, don't take no necessarily as an answer. If you really have a strong desire and you believe in it, there's always a way. It may present itself differently than you think, and there's a way that often leads to even greater, connection and significance and beauty than you would imagine. So it was very powerful lesson for me.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And I love that we got to this point, because it's one of those things that that give us a lot of gratitude, and a great opportunity for gratitude. Because usually when we think about gratitude, we think about other people and how they made a difference. But sometimes we have to let them make a difference in our life, like,
Yeah.
um if we are like too in a certain extreme, and we think that we can do everything ourselves, it can be really hard to ask for help, and to get to be grateful for people. But when we have a little bit of courage, and humility, and um, just openness to ask for help in different situations, these kinds of things happen. I'm not saying that they happen all the time, but
Yeah.
when these things happen, they are just amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good. So I wanted to get to another part, about gratitude with you. Um, when did you discover gratitude first? Like, you may have known about the concept for a while, but do you remember the first time that you felt grateful?
Ooh, that's a good, that's a really good question. I mean, I'm laughing because it's always about food with me. And one of my first, I have a lot of memories of one thing I did. I was very great. I'm very grateful for, and knew this growing up. I grew up with a lot of love and kindness. My parents were very, very loving towards me. So I felt that early on. I'm very grateful. And I think I knew that. Of course, one of my first memories, and this is so funny, in the documentary that I did on recovering from food addiction, and it's called Hungry for More. I actually have this scene and it came up right away. So I'm going to go with it. One of the moments I remember being so grateful was, this was like, I think one of my first days in nursery school. I grew up in the Boston area, and my dad, it was like a crisp autumn day, and my dad took me to nursery school. I had my favorite stuffed animal, which I still have, by the way. It's an elephant, not a bear, it's a little elephant. I just remember holding it. I was wearing like a dress, and of course, we went to get donuts. And I think I got two chocolate sprinkled donuts. I don't know why he let me eat two donuts when I was 4, but that's okay. But it's such a profound memory. It's so funny because I can remember just a lot of joy and gratitude and love, and obviously donuts, and I had my favorite animal, and I had my best friend at nursery school. So it's a pretty high point moment when I was little. That's the first memory that I can like zoom in on. There are many others too. But I grew up with a mom who openly also struggled with emotional overeating, food addiction. She was in a support group when I was like 9 or 10, and at that time it was really not that cool at all to be into this personal development stuff. So she
Mm,
had the gratitude journal, the abundance, I think it was like, I forget what it's called. It's the book about simple abundance. She was very into Louise Hay, who was
mhm,
all about gratitude. So I kind of was raised with Louise Hay and these incredible, thought leaders that were talking about, look, you can change your life with gratitude. And, she would have me look in the mirror. It was like a Saturday Night Live spoof, but she did this. She would have me look in the mirror, hug myself, and say, I'm grateful for you. I love you. And I thought it was so hoaxy and cheesy, and I hated it. But the seed was planted, and it was actually a gift that later on I was like, oh, that's actually very wise. So I'm lucky in that way, even when things felt really off and rough and not great internally. I did have this foundation they planted. The soil was rich with kind of seeds of gratitude, and knowing that would make a difference. So yeah, that's kind of as I got older. I was lucky to have that.
mhm. It's such a beautiful memory, and there are so many, like, tips and tricks, if we are um, aware of them in what you just said. I think it's a great way of educating children about gratitude, even if they say or they feel that it might be cheesy right now.
Yeah.
In 10 or 20 years or something, they might actually really appreciate those seeds, and they might grow into something beautiful, as is the case with Julie here. And yeah, I think it's a wonderfully simple experience that you just shared, that that makes us think about what we are grateful in our life, and the things that we can appreciate, and the fact that they don't need to be something like really big
Yeah.
that needs to happen in order for us to be grateful. And I think that's a really beautiful and inspiring story, so thank you for that.
Absolutely. Can I add one thing to what you just said?
Sure.
Because I think something's really important. I just noticed I have this inner voice that's gotten very loud, and I was like, oh, that's so right on what you said, which is, and this is something, and again, I think a lot of us are very in tune with these, big wins and hitting the milestone. And I'm going to, partying and celebrating when you do X, Y, and Z that's really big. And I'm learning, it's not like I've figured this all out, but I think learning to appreciate and celebrate whatever, even especially, not even, especially those small little moments that can go unnoticed. What I've been really seeing is that when you can start making it a practice to notice, like, getting into a car. There you go. That's one. The tree, we're in the time of leaves falling and changing.
Mhm.
Any, the more you can get into that, just noticing those small moments, I really think that increases life happiness and joy and presence. And I think it can be counterintuitive, counterculture at times because we're so attuned to, being grateful for the big, big, big milestones and wins. And it's actually the smaller ones. So I love what you just said. And it made me think about, this whole idea that what you appreciate appreciates. And I have seen that in my own life and with clients I work with, people I connect with. It's just, it's beautiful. The more you can tune into the small moments, those little moments, it's like, that to me is where you start seeing the magic of life.
Exactly. I think there's a quote from Einstein that says something like, um, "You can look at life as if everything is a miracle, or as if nothing is a miracle."
Yeah.
And this works perfectly in this case, and I think it's a really beautiful way of looking at life and making a choice, like, how do I want to live my life? Like, nothing is a miracle, or like everything is a miracle. So it's really up to us how we choose to live, and how we choose to see life. But since we're getting to the end of our time together, I wanted to ask you about the people in your life. Like, who were the people that made a difference in your life, and that you're grateful for, that you would love to mention?
Mm. All right. Well, I know I'm going to try to keep this short. I have a long, long list, but I would say some of those that are not on this planet anymore, like Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer,
Mm.
honestly have been huge inspirations and part of my growth and development. My first sponsor in recovery program, Paula, my mom, who's the most positive person on the planet. I feel like I have so many dear friends that are, just my best friend Meg, I've known since I was 5, who's always
Wow.
seen the light. Yeah, just and my husband Heath, who's always reflects the best of me, and frankly, I feel like um, people that I haven't met yet, like truly like Oprah, who I grew up with, and just watched her go from her story of poverty and abuse to where she is. She's a light for me and so many others. And then I'm grateful to myself for tuning into my best self and what I call my meest me. Like I really am grateful that I decided to. Well, I'm beyond grateful. I decided to go to that meeting and not end it. And yeah, just and obviously, so many so many of those that are just that have been a stand for me and for my best, and that have shown what, my great aunt who helped me through college. There's so many. I can't even name them all. Probably the two biggest teachers are my two children. I have two children, and I would say the gratitude for experiencing that is beyond measure. No words.
Hey, Gratitude Seeker, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this interview. I really appreciate it. And if you could think of one person that would also benefit from it, share it with them. It might actually be the inspiration that they need to make their day or maybe even their life much better. Thank you so much once again. This has been Georgian Benta. Don't forget to keep seeking and spreading gratitude.